It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing orthodontist Dr. James Thomas Hutta, DDS, and Dr. Jeffrey Price Dds, MS. Dr. Hutta was born and raised in the Columbus area and graduated with honors from the Ohio State College of Biological Sciences and the Ohio State College of Dentistry. I know from Ohio you got to get that or is it the or the? It's the Ohio State. He completed a 3-year residency program specializing in orthodontics at the Eastman Dental Center, University of Rochester School of Medicine. He has been practicing orthodontics since 1992. Recognizing the importance of both dental health and aesthetic appearance of a healthy smile, Dr. Hutta strives to provide state-of-the-art services for his patients by staying at the forefront of orthodontic technologies and new development in the field. Dr. Hutta is able to maintain a premium standard of services for his patients. He's a member of the American Association of Orthodontics, the ADA, the Ohio Dental Association, the International College of Dentists, and he has served on the board of directors of the Columbus Dental Society. He is also a past board member of the YMCA Children's Hospital Circle of Friends and participates in numerous study groups. Dr. Hutta has been voted as one of the top orthodontists in Columbus by his peers and patients numerous times. He is one of 50 orthodontists in the world who work to modify and improve technology. Dr. Jeffrey Price Dds, MS, is a Columbus native who graduated cum laude from Ohio Wesleyan University with a Bachelor of Science in pre-dentistry. He continued his education at the Ohio State University, where he graduated summa cum laude and obtained his Doctorate of Dental Surgery. After dental school, Dr. Price completed an additional 33-month orthodontic residency at the Ohio State University and earned a Master's in Science of Orthodontics. When you select an orthodontist, you want to be confident in both the orthodontist and the team. My gosh, I could read these things for hours and hours and hours. Thanks so much for coming on this show today. I wanted to get you on there because, when I got out of school, there were 9 specialties. Now there's 12. And orthodontics is a huge specialty. In fact, if you cut, the biggest state is Alaska. If you cut it in half, each half is bigger than Texas. And it's the same with orthodontists. If you cut the 11,000 orthodontists in half, each half would be bigger than the number 2 and 3 oral surgery and periodontists. So, I mean, and that should really drive home the point that when you're a general dentist and you're trying to learn how to do veneers on mom, well, mom, all species take care of their babies first. So mom would rather fix up her baby's teeth than fix up her teeth. And when you go present a $50,000 rehab to grandpa with 6 liver spots on his head, he's just thinking, what are we doing? I mean, fix me up for the funeral. So always aim down. McDonald's figured this out. They had the play area for kids because they knew mom's not going to go where she wants to eat a hamburger. She's going to go where the kids want to go. That's why they got the Happy Meals, the play area for kids. Man, this pandemic has been tough. I think of all the specialties, orthodontists are underneath the most pressure. You got a pandemic. You got these companies that want to do Orthodontics Direct, Smile Club Direct. There's all kinds of technologies out there. I mean, you guys are under siege. So I just wanted to call you up and say, hey, are you still in business? Are you still surviving? What's been the trick to surviving an orthodontic practice in Columbus, Ohio during a pandemic?
Yeah, we're not only surviving, we're thriving. So Dr. Price and I take a pride in being leaders in the community, especially in our chosen profession. So when we had the shutdown come, Dr. Price and I rallied around with our staff and sat back and, decided we could take this one of 2 ways. We can either sit back and, cry over spilt milk and feel bad for ourselves, or we could, we can tighten up our tool belt and make sure that we would continue to be efficient with our patients' needs. Fortunately, we had a lot of Invisalign patients. Dr. Price and I are one of the number 1 leading providers of Invisalign services in Ohio. So that allowed us a great opportunity to utilize that service in order to not have the patient come in and continue their care. We also did a lot of Zoom calls with our patients. We did a lot of interaction with them, seeing how their time was going. We were very proactive in communicating with our patients what their needs were. I still was coming in the office every day because we were allowed to. We got shut down, remember, as dentists, same as elective surgeries, because they were conserving our PPE. It wasn't because we weren't trained to protect ourselves or the patients from any communicable diseases. So we still were able to function on a limited basis. But Dr. Price and I just looked at each other and said, this is a definite different time of our life, different time in both of our careers, and we were just going to make the best of it. So we came up with certain protocols and how to take care of patients without them being in the office. We fortunately were already extending appointments with the Invisalign. We had a lot of boxes of Invisalign with patients that were coming up on their appointments. So we set up times for them to swing by the office, and Dr. Price would do a Zoom call with them and just have them look, at their trays, how they're seating, how they're tracking and all. And we would go ahead, Dr. Price, and he would go ahead and pass the new trays on or go do what we needed to do during that difficult time. But we just had to adapt. I mean, the problem is if you don't adapt in any profession, you're going to be left behind. And fortunately, we were on the forefront of aligner therapy and using technology to our advantage with less appointments needed and also less frequent visits. So we were really prepared. I was very impressed with how our staff managed everything. We still saw some patients in the office because we were allowed to, but it was just for emergency basis only. So zero new production. Money was sucking right out of our wallets, but we were able to service the patients that we were obligated to.
Yep. So, I mean, to add to that, I think when we were shut down, we both kind of looked at each other and said, we're still going to take care of our patients and we're still going to be here for them. We're not just going to kind of, turn the phones off and just turn everything off. We're still going to attend to our patients' needs. So phone was still answered. We were, in the office every day, kind of, we were almost working harder, even though we didn't have any, patients or just emergency patients. We were working harder, getting systems ready, getting the office ready, set up for when we were kind of allowed to slowly open back up. So we were, putting plexiglass, around the office to create that barrier when we couldn't, stay 6 feet apart. Dr. Hutta, thankfully, when he built this office, he already had the chairs pretty well divided and had dividers already installed between chairs, and we have some private rooms. So, in orthodontics, you have more of an open bay concept, but thankfully, Dr. Hutta was ahead of times with that and already had that, set up. We, looked at our HVAC system, our air purifier, made sure that was, top notch, and just, started adding more, just systems in place to help protect our staff and help protect, our patients. So we were just, working harder than ever. And, we applied for the PPP loan, so we were managing that. And we're, in close contact with, Ormco, our major bracket, provider and Invisalign. And we started, piloting new virtual consultations. Again, thankfully, we were ahead, of our time, and we had already implemented virtual consultations, a year prior to this happening. So, we didn't really utilize it for a lot of new patients, but we did use that platform to stay in touch with our existing patients, like Dr. Hutta was saying, and we'd have them submit us photos and, give us as much information as they could to stay in touch with them and attend to their needs, and really kind of pre-screen them to see if we had to see them in the office during that time, so we could do our part and help slow the spread. And again, with Invisalign was very gracious. I mean, they've have I've always considered them a great partner, but they've really shown their colors throughout this pandemic, and they've just really taken a big financial hit to make sure that we were able to service our patients the correct way going forward. So they would provide us with extra passive aligners or, whatever we needed so that we could, keep patients happy, keep them, progressing through their treatment. Or if we couldn't, if they were needing a refinement scan, but we couldn't get them in the office to do that, they were gracious enough to give us some passive aligners so they weren't stuck on the same tray for 6-8 weeks. So they had some fresh trays. So we were, managing all that well to keep our patients happy.
Yeah, we were very lucky. We had a very excellent social media program. So we have 3,000 or 4,000 followers on Facebook and a couple thousand on Instagram. So we use that platform to communicate with our patients and the parents, and it worked out great because you just can't send a mass email out. You can't call them on the phone. So we started to do videos once a week together, sometimes separate, sometimes together, just reassuring the patients, letting them know we're here for them, explaining to them, the do's and don'ts, and letting them know that we were available for virtual consults. And then the phone started to ring, and we started to communicate with them and take care of their either immediate needs or their future needs. But we had a list of patients that were ready to get going. It was right when we were allowed, after 6 weeks of being shut down, we were ready to go. We had the office all set up. We took all that time to be prepared, and implement our protocols, the new protocols that we had with PPE, which we always use anyway, but we had a special sterilization technique. I had brought a special cleaning company in to gas the whole office, and we have that done once a week now, and we have the ability to do it during the day if we need to. But we're very, very lucky. We've come back really strong, even stronger. To be honest with you, we've cut a lot of the wasted time out of the office, out of the practice, which has made us more efficient. So our cost per, or I should say our profits per visit has gone up just automatically, just by cutting a lot of the other stuff out of the office that wasn't as productive because we were limited on the number of patients we could see. So we're in a new wave right now of orthodontics, and I think it's a good time to be an orthodontist, especially somebody like myself and Dr. Price, who are experienced. We're known as the leaders in our area. We're recognized as being the top. We've just won the top orthodontic practice for the 5th year in a row here in Columbus, Ohio, which is a very surprising, awesome feat for us. We take pride in that. So we're recognized as being a compassionate, caring office, and we're very good, very, very thankful for our good fortune that's showed upon us.
Well, you guys have definitely made your own luck, and you guys are legendary. I really love that article. That the reason I called you is because when you made the newspaper, it says how dentists, orthodontists are keeping COVID-19 out of their offices. By trade, dentists and orthodontists have a pretty sanitary workplace. They quoted you as saying, James, "We went to school to prevent the spread of any disease, and there are much worse diseases that can be spread than COVID-19, says Dr. James Hutta from his Ghana office. Believe it or not, the dental office is probably the safest place you can be. And it really leads to dentistry. I had a conversation with a potential patient this morning. He's just there's two things he says he can't do. He can't fly an airplane, and he can't go to the dentist. And, he's about my age. And fear is just irrational. I mean, I noticed when 1,000 people were dying a day of COVID, at least 2/3 of Arizona couldn't care less. They thought it's the flu. It's something that bothers old people. But if two jumbo jets filled with 500 people were crashing into each other and falling from the sky, all of America would have closed down all the airports in 1 second. And fear is just it's just irrational. Same thing when I have patients that are afraid of getting a shot, but they have a bar through their tongue, they have a paper clip through their eyebrow, their whole arm sleeved with a tattoo, and it doesn't matter. They don't care about all those shots. They just don't want me to give them a shot in their mouth. I want to come back to something that you've. So thank you for writing that article. I mean, my gosh, there's still a lot of dentists in Ohio that are very, very upset that dentist offices had to ever close down. I hear that all the time, and I do want to say that I'm not a spokesperson for the ADA. Obviously, I pay my dues, but my gosh, they give the ADA more credit than they deserve. I mean, the ADA had nothing to do with closing down dental offices. I'm pretty sure we had a Centers for Disease Control, the United Nations, the World Health Organization. I'm sure they were all trying to get along and be polite. But when people say the ADA closed us down for 2 months, I'm like, dude, that's no one would even believe that in a Disney movie. But do you are you seeing light at the end of the tunnel that there's a vaccine? And all the dentists want me to ask all my guests, are you guys going to take the vaccine? If they pulled up to your office today with this new messenger RNA vaccine from Moderna, which stands for modern RNA, it's not like the attenuated vaccines we grew up with. If they pulled up to your office today and said, hey, we got this new modern messenger RNA vaccine, show me your arm and I'm going to stick a needle in it, would you guys do it?
Sorry.
What's that? I would first of all see if I have the antibodies first. I would get my antibody test and see if I already have the immunity to it. But yeah, I mean, I personally would. I personally wouldn't hesitate to. I have a feeling they're going to make it probably required anyway because we're in the healthcare field. So I know it's very controversial, but I wouldn't have a problem with taking a vaccine that is required to maintain my office open, and I have a feeling that's what they'll probably end up doing.
What about you, Jeff?
Well, I mean, I haven't decided yet. I can tell you, I mean, I do need to talk to my, primary care doctor, and I want obviously their opinion, and I think everybody should talk to their doctor and weigh their risk level. I think as dental professionals, we do have to stay healthy. We're in front of a lot of patients in a more intimate setting than most. But at the same time, this disease affects, people differently. I don't find myself being in in the position of being high risk, being 35, white male. My survival rate is 99.9 whatever percent. So I still have to kind of think through this. But I could initially right now, I'm probably leaning towards, bypassing that, at the moment, but continuing to, stay safe and, not be in big crowds and really, watch who I'm with and where I go and, continue to stay healthy. That's my biggest, protection in my opinion is, my immunity, my defense.
So, a couple questions that come up to me. Me not being an orthodontist, but how would being a clear aligner, Invisalign, providing practice be an advantage over like an Ormco, brackets and wires? Why was you in the beginning when you started talking? Why was being an Invisalign provider? How did that help during a pandemic?
Well, let's think about it. When somebody has braces on their teeth, there's wires, brackets that are glued onto the teeth, and what happens sometimes is you'll bite into something, it'll pop off, it'll poke you, it'll become activated. It can hurt can actually cause the wire to become activated to the point where it's painful, pushing on the tooth. Where when you have Invisalign in or in any kind of aligner therapy, the tray is the mechanism that activates and moves the teeth. So there's nothing really, there's not an emergency. There's nothing to hurt you. There's nothing to break off. There's nothing to cause harm. Versus, braces and wires, which we still do. The majority of our treatments are obviously with traditional braces and wires, but we can do so much more with Invisalign. And then the other thing is we don't have to see the patients as frequently. So when you do orthodontic adjustments every 6 or 8 weeks for adults or children or whatever, we can extend appointments to every 3 to 4 months if needed with Invisalign treatments, as long as we educate the patient, inform them of how to take care of things, and we plan the programming of the movement of teeth accordingly. So when they come back, we could rescan and make some more trays and get them on their way. So it's just an efficiency standpoint. Braces and wires are awesome, but they're on your teeth and they can be abused and damaged to the point where it can cause pain or need to see us on an emergency basis, where an Invisalign, you can even think of an emergency for Invisalign or aligner therapy, not really. So that's the technology that we use, and that's been a huge advantage. And we were, we were building our practice over the last 5 years. Jeff and I have been together 6 years now, to this point where we're at a really good balancing point to be efficient, productive, and kind and gentle, but also getting the top-notch results done in the shortest amount of time at the most cost effectiveness for our patients and families.
When you say two things I want to know, you're the supplier of orthodontic services, and then the patients are the demand. On the demand side of the equation, now, case law, like when we were little, there's a company called Kleenex. But the way trademarks work is when you start using it as a noun, or not as a noun, but as a verb, you lose your patent. So today people say, hand me a Kleenex, and they're handing you a tissue. It's not made by Kleenex. Xerox was another one. As soon as the court saw that people had a Canon copier and they were saying, go make me a Xerox copy of this, and they would go do it and come back, Xerox lost that deal. And like toothpaste is a great example. There's 208 countries, and I've been to, 25, I've lectured in 25 or 30 countries that don't even have a word for toothpaste because they call it Colgate. And when you go to Brazil, mom says, put Colgate on that, but you may be using one of 100 different brands. And so if I'm a patient, I call you up and say, yeah, I want Invisalign. But then when I get in there, you switch me to Bite or Candid or Clear Correct or some other choice. Is it kind of like that? If I say, can you go make a Xerox copy and you go make a Canon copy, can I call up and say, I want Invisalign, but you're thinking, I have an ongoing list. I'm up to 40 different identified companies now around the world that are making clear aligners. So when you keep saying Invisalign, is that because it's like Mercedes-Benz and you only drive a Benz? Or is it more like Kleenex and Xerox copy, and you guys are doing other types of clear aligners? And would the patient even care?
Well, we love Mercedes-Benz, actually. I think the reason why I do drive a Mercedes-Benz is because
I guess you're right.
Market. So, that's a very good point. We use other aligners for different treatment modalities. I'll let Dr. Price talk on this, but, there's something about being the leader in technology, and we've used 4 or 5 different of those aligners you've mentioned. One that is Spark, actually, from Ormco. It's their leading brand, but it took them so long to get the software going, and then their turnover rate to get the product in our office. You got to understand, there's so many moving parts in an office as busy as we are, and we have systems set up. We have certain expectations that we have and expectations that we pass on to our patients. And when the vendor or the company cannot produce the product in a timely fashion or at a highest quality level, that's one reason why we use Invisalign pretty much almost exclusively. They've never let us down. There are other products, but I haven't seen them come close to what Invisalign product can deliver. It's consistent every day, just like when I get in my Mercedes, start that car, heated seats, snowplow right down the road. It's consistent, and it's the best. I mean, we've tried other products. We've tried Ortho FX. We've tried all these other products, but there's so many moving parts that go into taking care of thousands and thousands of dental offices, moving, packages around, and making sure that the packages are there by a certain date and all. And I find it very hard to believe that there's another company out there that, at least right now, can deliver that service as efficiently and as well as what we have seen Invisalign do. Now, we do some in-house Invisalign aligner therapy. Actually, it's in-house aligner therapy, which is called like a ULab, because we've had 3D printers. We have 3 3D printers. And we have we have 2 lab techs, and we do our own resetting of teeth when there's just little minor corrections done. So by all means, we have other more cost-effective ways to treat a patient's needs or a little relapse or whatever. But I'll let Dr. Price take this over about the reason why we, the Kleenex brand is, might be the best. And that's why I think Invisalign is still the best. And we've tried all the other ones, and it's going to be a while before they're pushed off their pedestal.
And to touch on that, and not to sound arrogant or anything, but ultimately Dr. Hutta is the best, and Dr. Price is pretty good at it too. And what the key is I don't care what you use, what brackets you use, what, aligner system you use. Ultimately, you want the best result for the patient, at a reasonable cost, and the best overall experience. So it doesn't matter what you use, but, you're the doctor, and, obviously people come to us for us, and Invisalign is a tool in our toolkit, just like brackets. So, we really educate patients on, choose the right doctor, and let that doctor choose what crown is the best to put on your tooth, what materials, is best to use, or what aligner system to use. We want patients to look at us as partners in their journey, not just something that they're buying from us. And that's how we look at a vendor or a lab or a brand company. We want to partner, and the outside companies that we use are the best partners that we can find. And so Invisalign is, in our opinion, still the best partner that we can find as far as the aligner service goes. So not to be an advertisement for them, but at the end of the day, you just got to use what works best in your hands and what provides the best result and experience for your patients.
So I had Joe Hogan on the show, and I guilt tripped him into coming on my show because he'd always go on Kramer, and I'm like, oh, what's the difference between that short, fat, bald guy on CNBC and me? And I always see that guy on Kramer, and now it's even more fun after meeting him. But he has a lot of other technology, and this isn't advertisement. No one's paid me to be on this show. It's not like that. But, he's the CEO of Align Technology, which owns Invisalign, but they also own iTero intraoral scanner. And a lot of dentists have seen that in the news because these guys are constantly battling out in court. And I don't even know if I have a stance on it. He owns his own company, and he only wants to work with his own scanner. He owns iTero, and he owns Invisalign. So Align just wants to have a closed system like that. But 3Shape in Copenhagen, Denmark, thinks that's antitrust, and who knows? I'm not an antitrust lawyer, but do you guys use the iTero intraoral scanner? Because what I've noticed is the only two segments in dentistry around the world. Dentistry is a very mature industry. It's 200 years old going back to Pierre Fauchard. It's 100 years going back to G.V. Black. It only pretty much grows 1 or 1.5 or 2% above the inflation in my lifetime from getting out of high school in 1980 to now 2020. But when you go around the world and you look at the 1 million dentists that practice like us, and then the other 1 million dentists who do all the dentistry in their tribe and they didn't go to school, the only two things growing double-digit rate are clear aligners and implants. So it looks like a lot of kids come out of school and they think, if I'm gonna go into blood and guts and place implants, I'm gonna get the 3-shape oral scanner. But if I'm gonna go the bleaching, bonding, veneer, braces, Invisalign, I'm gonna do an iTero intraoral scanner. What do you think of that debate? I just assume you use the iTero scanner. Have you ever tried other ones? Does it work for you? Do you wish it was an open system so you could use a 3-shape scanner? Or what are your thoughts on scanners?
We've used other scanners. In fact, our main orthodontic bracket company had a scanner. It was called Orthos, right? What was it called? Lithos. And we were waiting for them to be accepted by Invisalign. This was, forever ago. So I've used other scanners and I've seen 3-shape. We've had, this was years ago now. But for the last 5 or 6 years exclusively, we have used nothing but iTero scanners. We feel they got the best, the warranty. It's really consistent. Uploading it is very consistent. We use it with our 3D printers. It's seamless with our 3D printing because every single patient, nobody gets an X-ray or nobody gets an impression anymore. Every single patient, new patient, old patient, like any retainers that are made, we scan them and we have a 3D printer and we make it off that. It's just consistently great. But iTero for us it's a good, for the cost, it's been a good measure for our success.
And I want to go back to clear aligners because when someone's brand loyal, like I'm the same with you, I believe only 2 countries really make a car, Japan and Germany, and it comes down to a Mercedes-Benz or a Lexus. When I got my SUV, and my Lexus I bought in 2004, it has 170,000 miles on it. I'm still driving it, and I also like the fact that I like the old car because I got 6 grandkids, and some of my we were backing out of the garage one day and my granddaughter opened the door just as I was going out and she bent the door open and she cried. I'm like, I'm having to explain to her, like, Grandpa doesn't care about the car. I only care about you. You're fine. Who cares about this car? But now whenever I walk out of my car and I see that little dent on the back door, I love it because at first I only think of my granddaughter. But when it comes to brackets, you said you're an Ormco fan. Is that because of service and rep and this and that? Or are you actually brand loyal to the technology of an Ormco BAM? Because my gosh, if there's 40 clear aligner companies, there's got to be that many bracket companies. How many bracket companies are there, would you guess?
No,
Hundreds.
probably 100.
Yeah,
More.
and when you look at implants, people don't realize this, but there's clusters. Like all the cars are made in the Detroit area, all the movies are made in Hollywood. Italy has always had a thing with titanium. They were way out in front of titanium. There are 100 different dental implant companies just in Italy that manufacture and make their original implants. When you go to Italy, you can buy a 10-foot long rod of the implant diameter, of any diameter you want, for almost nothing. So is it the technology? Is it the service? Is it the brand? Why are you loyal to Ormco brackets?
Well, Ormco, I've been, since residency, I happen to have a really good relationship with the representative that was there. He helped with my research projects and stuff. So I use 3M, we use A Company, we got to use everything in residency. So, but I got to visit for a dental scientist award for my research, my thesis. I got to visit the Ormco plant out in Orange County, California. And Ormco showed me through their research facility. And Ormco stands for basically it's orthodontic. It's a research company. Basically, what they do is they constantly do research. Their mantra. What's the let's see, Ormco. So
Orthodontic Research and Manufacturing Company.
Yeah,
Orthodontic Research and Manufacturing Company.
Yeah, so that's the basis underlying what they have. So, and then I got the pleasure of meeting Dr. Dwight Damon back when I was very young in practice. And Dr. Dwight Damon was a pioneer in the passive ligation system, which we exclusively use here. They his bracket was being used it was owned by a company, and it was owned by a company, and Ormco ended up buying it from a company. Anyway, so I'm basically loyal to them based on the years of service that they've provided, but just their commitment to research and development, and everything they do, they want to do it better. And a lot of it has to do with Dr. Dwight Damon, who became very influential in the hierarchy of the company, because it's the best technology there is. The metallurgy they use, the commitment they have. There are several other ways to straighten teeth with other bracket systems, and I've used MB&T. I've used all different kinds. There's not a bracket system I haven't tried. It's just the consistency in the results. And it's just like I said, jumping in that Mercedes and starting that car and going down the road, it's exactly the same every time. Ormco does a very good job at making sure what they perform, what they produce, what they allow the next generation to come out. And I've got Dr. Price and I are on their beta testing team. In fact, we're beta testing right now their next generation brackets. And it's very advantageous for us to see some of these things. But we have an influence in Ormco on how the technology, how we feel it needs to be improved to benefit the results and the treatment timing on our patients. And Ormco listens. That's the difference, ultimately.
I think this show's only a hit because I'm able to get guys on like you, and I really appreciate that. But I call it Dentistry Uncensored because I don't want to talk about what everyone all agrees on. I want to go right to the most controversial stuff, and there's nothing more controversial in all of orthodontics than Smile Direct Club. So I don't know how to politely ask a question about that, but they're calling it direct to consumer. It kind of looks like they're trying to get so much technology, they're trying to bypass you guys. What are your thoughts on Smile Direct Club? Do you see it like high end, like you're a Mercedes-Benz, you drive a Mercedes, you're high end, and Smiles Direct is the direct without a dentist, and to say it's an old Chrysler? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. What were you asking?
About Smiles Direct Club. I mean,
Who were they?
That's the answer, huh?
That's the answer.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on Smiles Direct Club? I'm pretty sure if you Google it, it's a something. But
yes, it's no, I'm on the same page there. It's pretty unfortunate that Invisalign, decided to kind of partner with them years ago, because I don't think they would be the player right now that they are if it wasn't for Align Technology. And that kind of goes back on one of your previous questions about some of the controversies surrounding Align Technology and some of the decisions they've made in our industry, along with scanners. And I do believe in an open market and, competition, because I think that's what, drives, better products that ultimately help the consumer or patient. But yes, I mean, we've stayed in partnership with Align, but I do, understand all of their controversial decisions between, retail locations. There's been a lot of controversial decisions they've made in our industry. And one of them was, partnering with Smile Direct Club. Now that they've separated, Smile Direct Club is trying to claim that they're a DSO, that, they just there to help dentists, treat from afar. But, we're worried because we do get a lot of, follow up from their patients. And, our number one rule in our day-to-day is do no harm. And we, in order to do that, you have to fully diagnose the problem and know your patient inside and out. There's a lot of things that you can't see from just an X-ray from their general dentist, or just a scan that's in black and white with no color and photo. So we both really feel strongly that a clinical exam, in-person clinical exam, should be required to undergo any kind of tooth movement. As we all know, every tooth is a living, vital organism with a blood supply and a nerve supply. And, we don't dumb down what we do. And what we do is very significant. So if you don't do it with great caution and care and be very meticulous, you can exacerbate periodontal disease. You can, cause recession. You can cause enamel wear and destruction. You can cause teeth to crack. You can cause TMJ, symptoms, disorders. So there's certain things that can be done, somewhat virtually, and we definitely take advantage of some of those aspects. But when it comes down to it, in order to treat somebody properly, hands-on care is by far the best. But there may be a very, very small handful of cases that could be treated with no attachments and no IPR and no, cosmetic dentistry, or, and just a removable retainer, but we do that from time to time, but we've done a thorough exam on the patient and, taken thorough records, and we know them inside and out.
I want to ask you, again, dentistry, and since I'm trying to go to the most controversial thing, I've been out here in Phoenix for since '87, and I've noticed that the few debates of my close and personal friends where they're arguing with the orthodontist, it's all in good fun, but there's seriousness behind it, is that the pediatric dentist doing early treatment and the orthodontist not appreciating it, saying things like, well, you use up their deductible, but it seems like some pediatric dentists really believe in rapid palatal expanders and early intervention, and there are older orthodontists, and by old I mean anybody who's a day older than me. I'm very young, but the dentists out here that are a year older than me, especially if you're born in '61, and then you're too old to even practice, but is it controversial in your mind? Do you see kids and think, God, I wish they would have had early treatment? Or do you look at this and say, it's not going to change anything I do? Talk about the difference between pediatric dentist, early treatment. And the other thing I've noticed, huge, is that, the first business model, I got my MBA from Arizona State University, and they beat into our brains that the only playbook for retail for 300 years in America was, 300 years ago, you had this little one-car garage, and that was your shop, and you lived upstairs. The next generation said, I'm going to get 2 shops. And the next generation said, we're going to go 3. So bigger. It went from, 10 square foot to 250,000 square foot, when both Walmart and Costco and everybody said, we're getting too big, it's hurting our sales, and Walmart closed down about 50 of their stores that they said, and I agree with that. I'd rather go buy milk at a gas station and go in and out than go to Walmart and walk, 100 yards across the parking lot. But it seems like the business model in dentistry is 1 + 1 = 3. We saw that with Clear Connect or Clear Choice implants, where they said we're going to get the implant surgeon and the prosthodontist and the lab man. 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. That company's been sold 4 or 5 times. I think they did 18,000 arches in 2019 for almost 25,000 arch. And now I'm seeing that when a pediatric dentist opens with an orthodontist, 1 + 1 = 3 again. I look in my backyard of a pediatric dentist that just opened versus a pediatric dentist with an orthodontist, and the combination is exploding, because if 100 moms take their kid to the pediatric dentist, all 100 are going to say, hey, is little Billy going to need braces when he gets older? So instead of writing a form and saying go down the street, they're putting, I remember the first time I lectured in Australia, they're down under, they're very far away. The grocery stores hadn't added the meat man and the produce. When I lectured the first time in Australia in 1990, you went to a butcher, you went to a baker, you went to a vegetable guy, and I'm like, man, in America, that's all under one roof. So that was my idea was to throw so many questions at you that one of them is good. But can you address early treatment, pediatric dentists, orthodontics, how that's going to roll forward in your mind?
Yeah, we work with a lot of pediatric dentists in the community and have a great relationship. In fact, Dr. Price's dad and sister are both pediatric dentists. So, and they will do early interceptive treatment when they see it's deemed necessary. And sometimes that might be the best place for them. They might have behavioral issues. They might have been sedated already because they have, bad crowns, stainless steel crowns, or abscess or whatever. So we have no issues with pediatric dentists doing some early interceptive treatment. But the way we see it is the most productive offices of pediatric dentists choose not to do the orthodontics because of the amount of follow-up, the volume of patients you need to see, and the compensation level of those. So we have a very good program that we've had for years. Dr. Price and I have perfected. About a third of the patients we see, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, that we actually do a treatment on. And we only do it if we feel that there is structurally something we can improve, arch developers or an underbite or some abnormal wear to the teeth. So we've had a great system that's worked for years, and I'm on like second and third generation of patients now. So I've treated, almost 40,000 patients here in Central Ohio. So we know what works and what doesn't. But as far as a pediatric dentist, we have great relationship with all pediatric dentists. If they want to do an expander or they want to do some treatment, by all means, it's their patient first. We'll take them and finish the treatment later or whatever they need. But in the Midwest, I don't see it quite being the same as what you're describing. Maybe it's some of the younger dentists some are the pediatric dentists that are maybe doing more of that. But there is a shortage of pediatric dentists in the US. I do know that. So when they get into an office, when they either start into a group practice or whatever, they are really, really busy doing just a lot of sedation dentistry. That's where their money is. They make way more money sedating patients, doing quadrant dentistry, doing chrome crowns, doing all that. That is where their money is. They did not go to that level of training to worry about fitting a band or putting a couple brackets on. They make a bank on doing sedation dentistry and taking care of the true reason why they're surgeons. I mean, they are as much a surgeon as a periodontist or an oral surgeon. They do a lot of work on sedated patients every day. So as far as your controversial question, I don't really see it that. We work in tandem with all the offices around, and if they want to do something or need help. In fact, we have a lab. A lot of them use the lab to make their little expanders or their holding arches or whatever. And we have a service that, picks it up or drops it off. And we have great relationships with them. And I wouldn't be offended if they decided to do an expander on a patient of theirs or whatever, because guess what? We see the other 100 patients that they might treat only one of.
Yeah, I don't get general. I mean, I can do a root canal, build up, and crown in 2 hours for $2,500. And I'm done. I don't want to get married to someone for $4,000 over $6,000 over 2 years. I mean, and then the other thing I want you general dentists to think about is anytime I see a general dentist doing ortho or Invisalign or whatever, he's scheduling half-hour appointments for an Invisalign check. How long would you guys schedule for an Invisalign check?
10 or 20 minutes prior to this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, so the bottom line is, gosh darn, you guys probably just see 4 people an hour, right?
Yeah.
So if let's just say, just for easy math, let's say you saw 4 people an hour and your overhead was 50%, and now the general dentist sees two ortho people an hour. You're not making money. I mean, it's just you got to go. You got to raise up your hand. That's what I always tell my boys when they're little. I said, God gave you 5 fingers. One's for faster, better, easier, higher quality, lower cost. Are you going to do this service faster, better, easier, higher quality, lower cost? And if this guy only does one thing and you do, there's 12 different specialties. And I got to remind everyone that in 1900, there were no specialties in America and healthcare was 1% of the GDP. By the end of the century, 2000, the MDs had 58. We had 9. Now it's 2020. We're up to 12. I own a couple of healthcare magazines, Dental Town, Ortho Town. There are 40,000 healthcare publications. You just can't keep up on one thing. And we're not going back to 1900 where one man amputates your leg, your foot, delivers your baby, and we're not doing that. Like say my friends that do eyes, one's an optician, one's an ophthalmologist, one only does retinas, one only does glaucoma on diabetic patients, and those guys can't keep up. Like when dentists tell me they want to get into implants, I couldn't even keep up with bone grafting. Just one little aspect of the implant, I can't even keep up on that. So I really love the enthusiasm. When I see you kids come out of dental school and you tell me you want to learn endo and perio and pedo and ortho, I love your enthusiasm. But you're going to be driving 100 miles an hour, going off the road, doing U-turns, crashing into the banks. And when you pick one thing and aim it right down the middle of the interstate, and you just aim on one thing, it's still going to take you 10 years just to get good at that one thing. That's 10 years do one thing. When I survey dentists, orthodontists, specialists, and and on Dental Town, a lot of guys say, well, most orthodontists say this, and I'll say, oh, that's great. Can I see the survey? There's never a survey. That's just what they believe. And Dental Town and Ortho Town, when you start a thread, you can start a poll. So I've seen 1,000 polls on Dental Town and Ortho Town for 20 years. And whenever someone asks what stresses you out the most, it's always people. It's either the patients or the staff. And now dentists are really starting to get stressed out because some of their staff is already declaring, I'm not getting a vaccine. And if that communist, heavy-handed government forces me, I quit. So not just that issue, but what advice would you give to a dentist? They hide in their office and get on Dental Town and say, my hygienist just asked me for a raise. What should I say? The stress of just people. I think dentists, like physicists and mathematicians, they're introvert. They lived in a library their whole life, and people just stress them out. So can you give me some people advice? How do you manage patients and staff?
Well, it's not easy, but just like life in general, you have to be compassionate and you have to be caring. You have to love what you do, and it has to be shown every day to not only your patients but your staff. I think they appreciate that, they feel that, they see it. I would tell there's a mantra from residency. Dr. Baker actually was a gentleman who I first heard it from, is that people don't care. People don't care how much, people don't know how much or how is it?
People don't care how much you know until they know
how much you care. Yeah, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the point being that mantra. So people don't care that you're a doctor, that you have a, that you have a degree, whatever. What they care about more is that you care about them more than your degrees on the wall, and that's kind of what I live by, and that's what I've talked to my staff about numerous times. Is that no matter what the person sitting in the chair, their profession is, don't judge them, don't degrade them, don't question their dental IQ, don't question their abilities in any regard. Make sure they know that you care about them as a person first, and that they entrust upon you, that for you to sit down and take care of them. To work on somebody's mouth is probably one of the top 3 fears of individuals that people don't realize. Individuals' fears is to sit down and have a stranger look in their mouth, prod around, or do something. So we get to know our patients very, very well, but you have to understand that we put them in a very compromised position. So having and foregoing that and making them understand that you care about them more than words can be expressed. I think that's kind of how you get through your day. But as far as being a young dentist, and just be smart. Don't think that you're bigger than anybody else. Don't think that you're smarter than anybody else. Don't think that you deserve something more than somebody else. I mean, go out and capture it. Go out and earn it. My big thing with my kids is I always tell them effort equals result. So you're not going to get a excellent result unless you put forth 100% effort. And if you don't get what you want out of that effort, then it means you didn't, you need to dig down and find a little additional effort to satisfy what you want out of it. So practicing dentistry is exactly that. It's practicing. Learn from your mistakes. Expand upon what your talents are. No dentist is good at everything. I mean, no super dentist can, do every single thing 100% perfectly every single time, but just try to strive for perfecting what you're good at. And I think you'll enjoy practicing the art of dentistry.
And that quote got that man all the way to the White House. That was Theodore Roosevelt. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that way, and tough times. People are complex, and I think a lot of people they're stressed out by people. I mean, I was looking at a study the other day about how people live. I mean, it's amazing how little they interact. I mean, it's like 2/3 of their whole life they're at home. They sleep 1/3 of their life. They're at home. They go to work. That's about the other 1/3. But humans just really aren't social animals. I mean, think about it. We all started in Africa, and what has everybody done for 100,000 years? Get away from their parents, and to get away with their parents, they ended up all the way to Argentina and Australia. I mean, people just move away from each other. So your dad and your sister is a pediatric dentist?
They are, yep. And, as a young dentist, if I could give anybody some advice, I'm very fortunate to have, a father that was a great mentor, and I got to kind of grow up under his tutelage, and I was in his practice a lot, and kind of saw not only the good days, but some of the bad days. And then I was, lucky again to meet, Dr. Hutta and have him kind of welcome me into the practice with open arms. But as a young dentist, we're fortunate right now in our industry that there's a lot of practices already set up. There's a lot already going on, that there's jobs available. So my advice would be to, when you get out of school, you still need some years to refine your craft. So if you can, find, an awesome mentor to kind of, work alongside of, and, you can grow, and you can, if you can perfect the dentistry part of what we do, kind of, as you learn the business and management side of what we do, it just kind of helps decrease that stress level. Mm-hmm. So that would be, and sometimes corporate practice doesn't, always offer that mentorship or, that good role model of how you treat, your staff and how you take care of people, because, they may be more about their bottom line. That's more of a business to them. So as a profession, we need to continue to do what we can to, continue to work for ourselves and help each other out. Because ultimately that's what helps lower our stress level.
Yeah, you said a Theodore Roosevelt quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I also love this quote. Far and away, the best prize that life has to offer is a chance to work hard at work worth doing. And one of the reasons I love math, physics, chemistry, and biology so much more than so many other deals is because words either have meaning or they don't. And I think one of the words that people just do not understand is socialism. The word socialism started several hundred years ago when they meant the worker wanted the right to his own work. He wanted to own his work. So if he owned his land and the king came and took half his crop in taxes, he could live with that. But when they took his land and now he doesn't own his means of production and the king comes and takes half of it, they drew the line there and it was always bloodshed and it never worked out well. And I think that owning the means of your production for 200 years, people have been fighting to death over this deal. And to come out of dental school and say, well, I could either own my means of productions and build a team that we all agree on the values and work together on work that's worth doing, man, that's happiness. But to go to work every day and be under someone's thumb and telling you to do things that you don't agree with, that's just a recipe disaster. And if I'm wrong, please show me the data. I've been screaming this forever. I mean, there's 2 dental schools in my backyard. I'll go to any graduating class 5 years ago. And everybody comes out of school and says, oh, yeah, I should go work for a DSO and I won't have to blah, blah, blah. And I'll pay down my debt. My God, they have a different job every year for 5 years until they're so miserable. They finally say, I hate it. I hate my life so much. Now they're not afraid of opening up their own business and working for yourself. But I'll tell you what, it's hard to get your dad's a pediatric dentist and so is your sister. I haven't even met them, but I already know they disagree on silver diamine fluoride. I mean, that's their biggest controversy. You want to see 2 pediatric dentists almost go to gloves, it's over silver diamine fluoride. Imagine if you're a doctor and your office manager is changing your treatment plan or switching the patient to a different doctor, telling you that shouldn't be an MOD composite, that's going to be a crown, and then charging for a buildup when you didn't do. I mean, no. You're the doctor, and Teddy Roosevelt nailed it. Far and away, the best prize that life has to offer is a chance to work hard and work worth doing. And orthodontics, the reason I'm bullish on orthodontics, because I know there's a lot more competition. I know there's a lot of clear aligners. I know there's companies trying to do it direct. But here's my take on orthodontics. When I was little, I grew up, our family was Catholic. My mom and dad had 7 kids in 3 days. And in my grammar school, the largest family was the Hesses. My buddy Brian Hesse, when I thought his dad, who I thought was his dad for like all of grammar school, turned out to be his oldest brother. His dad, they had 21 children. And our family had 7. And back then, only the daughter whose teeth were so bad she'd never get married and have to go to the convent and be a nun her whole life, like my 2 oldest sisters are nuns, got ortho. And now you fast forward, and now the families have shrunk to about 2 kids, so they both get ortho, and they might get ortho in high school. They get it again when they're 30. They're getting it again when they're 50. I mean, I think the United States is probably. Do you think it's already past the point where 331 million Americans have had 331 million ortho cases? Because I've seen so many people that are getting ortho for the second or third time by the time they're 50. I mean, there's so many second and third time 50-year-olds getting ortho that I think they've already absorbed all the people who never got ortho. But my gosh, orthodontics, it's that peacock thing. Your only goal is to survive and find a mate and reproduce, have offspring, and it's really hard to do if your teeth look like you can eat corn on the cob through a chain link fence. And anything that has to do with looking more mateable to another primate. I mean, they go up. The first time I lectured in China, I was stunned when I found out that the women in China, 40% of their disposable income went to makeup and pretty stuff just to make them look beautiful. And I was sitting here at these factories, and it'd be like hard work on an assembly line. And the girls had 3-inch high heels on and skirts and dresses and makeup and all this stuff. And I think ortho is going to come down to a fact where people will just always be going back, altering their smile, making their teeth a little wider, a little straighter, a little more beautiful. So then that comes down to the question, my last question we went over now. I'm so grateful you guys come on the show, but it's still a debate amongst dentists on Dental Town. Is orthodontics cosmetic? Is it, I'm trying to be as pretty as a peacock? Or do you think it's really related to health? Do you think two identical twins, one had braces, one had crowded teeth, is it just beauty or is it health?
No, it's beauty is a side effect for 90% of our cases. And I think people are becoming more attuned to their overall dental health, and they want to die with their teeth, and they don't want to have to go through implants and crowns, and they want to do everything they can to keep their natural, healthy teeth. So, I tell patients, the cosmetic side is a nice side effect, but I think they're seeking it out, for the cosmetic component, but also the functional and the health component too. So.
Well, that's unique about dentistry. It's a science and an art. So in the science part, we definitely have advantages to having straighter teeth, better bites, more balanced bites. And then also with that comes the aesthetic component, like Dr. Price said, which is an adjunct. In having a better occlusion, you're going to have ultimately a more aesthetic smile. So there are patients that come and seek just an aesthetic improvement, but I think probably 85% of our practice that people know the benefits are function first and then aesthetic second, but ultimately we're going to give them the best looking smile possible. Aesthetics is, like I said, it's an adjunct on top of making a more functional occlusion.
Well, I forgot that couldn't be the last question because, come on, Jeff, your last name's Price, Weston A. Price. I mean, if that's not one of the most important orthodontists that ever lived, so that makes him one of the most controversial because he was born in 1870 and he died in 1948. But Western Andrew Value Price, for his theories of relationship between nutrition, dental health, physical health. He founded the National Dental Association. First of all, did you do 23andMe? Are you related to Dr. Price? Do you have any thoughts on him sharing the last name in the same profession?
I don't believe so, because my original grandfather's last name was Piasecki, and he changed it to Price when he moved to America to kind of assimilate and kind of blend in. But no, it sounds like a great forward thinking man.
Yeah, he was. A lot of people don't like, or they're trying to prove what he said was wrong. But if you go back to 1870 to 1948, he was shifting everyone's interest to nutrition. and he thought nutrition had a lot to do with health. And so when I hear some kid in 2020 telling me how wrong he was, it's like, I'd like to see how wrong you were in 1870. This guy was way ahead of his time. He was a genius. Weston A. Price. But hey, I know you guys are busier than a one-armed dentist, and to get both of you to come on the show at the same time, what a treat. Thank you so much for all that you do for dentistry. Thank you so much for getting printed in the newspaper. That article was viral. I mean, we got a bunch of ways to check, and that article that you wrote, I mean, that was shared all over dentistry. I mean, that was everywhere, and it was true. I mean, gosh darn, this is my second virus I've dealt with. When I got to school in 87, the big virus was HIV. And we had to make a lot of changes for HIV, wearing gloves, you know, all the things we did, which made us so much stronger for this aerial virus. And if you're as young as you're going to see another one. I guarantee you. You practice for 20, 30 more years. When you're as old as me, you're going to be dealing with another virus. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking to my homies and sharing all things orthodontics. It was a real honor to podcast interview you, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do, Howard.
Thanks, Howard. Appreciate it.